Welcome to our online engage groups. I'm Pastor Jess Holmes. I'd like for you to share with the group what makes you so afraid that when you see it, you literally have to turn and run the other direction. Be brief, but share with the group. And leaders, press pause, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. We have been identifying toxins or poisons that the enemy puts around us, hoping that we will reach out and take a drink. This week, we talked about the poison of sexual temptation. And there is absolutely no one who is exempt from sexual temptations. And the truth is, many of us have drank from this extremely dangerous cup. Sunday, I shared 3 anecdotes for this toxin. I used the sin of David with Bathsheba to illustrate the 3. And here they are. The first is that with sexual temptations, there is a time and there is a proper place. The second thing is that God, He provides a way out of our sexual temptation. And the third is that if we do drink of this cup, the antidote is to acknowledge and truly repent of our sin. So much to avoiding the cup of sexual temptation is the avoidance of it altogether. Now, I understand there is no way to avoid it at all costs. That is where we need to understand that it's not the first look that kills you. It's the second and the third. God made us human with feelings and attractions. It's perfectly normal to recognize God's beautiful creation. There is a difference, though, between a glance and a stare. I'd like for you to think of it like this. If you knew there was a poison that was so toxic that if you even breathed its fumes, it could intoxicate you. If you maybe stared at it long enough that it had the ability to even hypnotize you. If you knew that it existed and you even saw it at a distance, what would you do? I hope we would all run away from it as soon as possible. You recognize it, you see it, but you choose to stay far from it. This is how I believe the Bible teaches about the poison of sexual temptation. A huge part of it is just learning to stay clear of it. And the warning signs are everywhere. The most direct one is found in 1 Corinthians 1:18. It says to flee from sexual immorality. The NLT actually says to run from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. To run. Literally run away when you see it coming. If you knew really how dangerous it was, you wouldn't even tell your kids to go sniffing around it, or even to taste just a little bit of it. In fact, you know it's so enticing that your child would probably not have enough willpower to say no. So you would do everything in your power to keep them from it. You know, just because you have failed doesn't mean that your kids have to. Just because your parents got divorced doesn't mean that you have to. This idea that we don't have control over our sexual desires, it is just a lie of the devil. And the Bible tells us that we actually have the power to overcome any sinful and sexual desire that we have. 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Endure it? That means it's going to come. So are you ready to fight the good fight? Are you ready to recognize the warning signs? To stay away from sketchy scenarios? What are you filling your mind with? We sang the songs, "Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see." So what are you watching that you shouldn't be? And let's not just stop at pornography, guys. Let's not even get a sniff of this toxin, because we know that it's deadly to our soul. Before we talk about this as a group, I want you all to know that sin is sin, and that there isn't a sin that God won't forgive. But let's be clear, it does take the antidote of acknowledging our sin and truly repenting. This isn't just "oh, I messed up, forgive me," and then not doing anything different and falling into the same trap again and again. Listen, if you know there's a trap, you'd stay away from it. If we knew how deadly this toxin really was, you wouldn't even come close to it. You know, coming back to it over and over and over again is a lot like what Proverbs says in Proverbs 26:11. It says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his foolishness." Don't be a fool. Break the cycle. Break the chain. But you have to start with your thoughts. You have to start with, what are you allowing to come in? So recognize it. If it's not of God, put up that boundary. Don't even go near it. Don't let it come in. We need to stop feeding our sexual desires and our temptations. And just like every addiction, it's going to be hard at first. You will have to be very disciplined. And that's why, in many cases, you will need to get help from others. This is in the form of accountability, but it is also in counseling. We don't delay. You need to get the help you need. Recognize the poison and choose to put up boundaries in your life so that you aren't even tempted. Let's talk through the questions as a group, and we'll see you again next week as we talk about another poison that the enemy wants us to digest. We truly are better together.